Hi, today we're going to be comparing two different types of projectiles fired from a cap and ball revolver. The handgun I'm going to use is a Ruger Old Army with a 7.5-inch barrel, and I'm going to be comparing the traditional round ball versus a conical bullet. Let me show you a close-up of what these projectiles look like.
Here's our two projectiles, and keep in mind that all projectiles I use today will be ones that I molded myself. On the left is your 4.57 diameter traditional round ball. I weighed several of these on my scale, and they came out to a pretty consistent, rounded down to the nearest whole number, weight of 143 grains. The conical bullets are also 4.57 diameter, and when I weighed about 10 of these, they had an inconsistent weight ranging from 218 to 223 grains, and I did the math and came out with a mean weight of 221 grains.
So there's three things I want to compare today. First is accuracy, both in terms of size of the group and location of the group. Secondly, we want to compare the on-paper mathematical power of the two projectiles. With the conical bullet weighing 84 grains more than the round ball does, we would expect it to have a lower velocity, but just how much lower? And with its greater weight, how will the two projectiles compare in terms of energy foot-pounds? And then we want to see how those differences in on-paper mathematical power translate into effectiveness on the intended target. So today we're going to start with accuracy. So I've set up two shoot-and-see targets, and I'll shoot the lower target with the conical bullets, the upper target with the round balls, and we'll see how the groups compare. And I'll start with the conical bullets. I've got my Ruger Old Army loaded with our 221 grain conical bullets backed up by 30 grains of 3F black powder, and I'll shoot from 20 yards. So here's our group, which is not bad for shooting offhand at 20 yards, except of course for the one flyer, which is just me. But how will our conicals compare to round balls? Now I've got the Ruger Old Army loaded with our 143 grain round balls, which are also backed up by 30 grains of 3F black powder, and now I'll shoot from 20 yards at the upper target, and let's see how the groups compare. And there's our results. Now, a couple of things to note. One, yes, black powder can get your hands dirty. And two, the round balls are the ammunition I used to zero this revolver. So with that in mind, looking at our results, there's a couple of big takeaways from it. One, although different revolvers might have different results, if you shift from round balls to conicals, you must be prepared that you may have a significant shift in the location of your group. And two, in comparing the accuracy of the different projectiles, although this group might look better than this one, if you take the one flyer out of each group and just look at the 5 impacts that actually make the group, the two groups are virtually identical in size. Some people will say that the conical bullets will shoot more accurately than round balls. Now remember, this is me shooting offhand at 20 yards. Perhaps if I put the revolver in some kind of vise, I might have seen some difference. But in terms of the average shooter just shooting targets, it looks like the conical bullets are not going to make any significant difference in accuracy. So now that we've compared the accuracy, let's compare the velocity. I've got the chronograph set up at 7 yards and have the Ruger Old Army loaded with the conical bullets, again backed up by 30 grains of 3F black powder. .832. .904. .797. Gotta wait for the smoke to clear. 871. .820. And .860. Now let's see how that compares to the round balls. And now let's shoot our round balls, which are also backed up by 30 grains of 3F black powder. .1038. .999. .944. .995. .958. And 1001. Now let's go crunch the numbers. Well, I crunched the numbers, and with the round ball I got a mean velocity of 989 feet per second, with a conical bullet 847. So the round ball is faster by 142 feet per second. That's a lot more. But remember, there's a significant weight difference in the projectiles. The round ball weighing 143 grains, while the conical bullet weighs 221. 84 grains more. We would expect a lower velocity. But also with the difference in weight, what difference is there going to be in the energy in these projectiles? Well, if I did my math right, the round ball had 310 energy foot-pounds, the conical bullet 352, 42 pounds more. And I'm going to say that is significantly more. But as I've said so many times, all of these numbers are just numbers on a page. How will they translate into effectiveness on the intended target? Let's see if we can put that to the test. So to test our effectiveness on the intended target, we're going to use the meat target. Now, for those who haven't seen it before, the meat target is leather jacket skin, followed by pork steak pectorals, pork ribs, bag of oranges to simulate lung tissue, more pork ribs on the back, 4 layers of t-shirt on the back, 4 layers on the front, and the whole thing followed by the new and improved high-tech fleece bullet stop. And I'll shoot this from 10 yards with the Ruger Old Army, which right now is loaded with 30 grains of 3F black powder and the 143 grain round ball. So here's the ribs on the front of the target, and we just see 44 caliber holes, and where a projectile hit a rib, shattered it. We see pretty good damage to our orange lung tissue, and the ribs on the back of the target just have 44 caliber holes through them. Now, 2 of the projectiles were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target, and 1 made it through to about the 5th layer of fleece. Now let's take a close-up look at the projectiles.
And here we see that 2 of our projectiles have very little deformation, and 1 is kind of flattened out.
Now I've got a new meat target set up, and I have the Ruger Old Army loaded with 30 grains of 3F black powder and our 221-ish grain conical bullets. And I'll shoot this from 10 yards, and let's see how the results compare to the round balls. So with the ribs on the front of the target, we see 44 caliber holes, and again, where a bullet hit the ribs, shattered it. We see some pretty good damage to our orange lung tissue, and in my subjective observation, it looks like the conical bullets did maybe a little more damage to the orange lung tissue than the round balls did. And the ribs on the back of the target, again, just have 44 caliber holes in them. And in this case, all three of the projectiles were stopped by the t-shirt on the back of the target. Now let's take a close-up look at the conical projectiles.
And we see some significant deformation to the face of the conical projectiles.
Now, a couple more things to add. First, the results you get with a cap and ball revolver can significantly be affected by how clean or how dirty your barrel is. And I have to point out that I diligently clean the barrel of this revolver every time I reload it. Secondly, the results I got here today reflect only the results that I got with this revolver. Different people with different revolvers might actually get significantly different results. But in discussing those results, what did we really get? Well, we saw that the difference in accuracy was minimal, although there was a significant shift in point of impact from one projectile to the other. So if you're going to shift from one type of projectile to the other, you're probably going to have to re-zero your handgun. We also saw that the difference in results on the meat target from one projectile to the other were minimal. And I have to take into consideration that occasionally I use this revolver for black powder shooting competitions, and when I do, the only authorized projectile is round balls. So the bottom line is, for me, the conical bullets just aren't going to have that much application. Now, that having been said, I want to briefly discuss something else. You may have noticed that today's presentation seems a little bit disjointed and looks like it was filmed over a long period of time in different places. It seems like that because it was. In filming today's presentation, we've had some mechanical failures, we've had some equipment failures, and although weather virtually never plays a part in anything we do, in this case it did because we had some near blizzard conditions that made it impossible for me to even get to the facility where we normally film. So today's presentation has been filmed at different times in different places, and that's why it looks like it does. And this is a discussion point because occasionally questions come up such as, what was the most fun presentation to film and things like that? Well, if the question were, what was the most arduous, difficult, time-consuming presentation I've ever filmed, this is it. So as always, don't try this at home on what you call a professional, and thanks for watching the conical versus round ball projectile video.